Good morning, dear Dharma friends. Well, here we are. It's Sunday morning, the 25th of April, 2021. How could that be? What happened to the last 25 years? Very good hand gestures, James. I think you captured it well. So, I'm Robert Beatty, and I'm coming to you from Portland, Oregon, where it's a little overcast. We got some rain yesterday. My rain barrel system filled one 50-gallon drum and got 20 gallons into another 100 one, an overflow. And that was not much rain. So hopefully we'll get some more. It's been very dry. Very dry. So this is a broadcast of the Portland Insight Meditation Community, a community that is centered in the teachings of the Buddha, down through the Theravadan lineages, through Lady Sayadaw and U-Ba Khin and Ruth Denison, and also some admixture from Achan Cha and all over the place, actually. So we have a couple of hours. Hello, Jim Dalton. Thanks for being here this morning. And I will do a guided meditation, and we will have Jim do some movement, and then I will be giving a talk on wisdom, really, today. And I'm hoping to gather some wisdom up between now and then so that I have something to share. So I have a lovely poem to share with you that I came across years ago. It's by Dara Gatling Austins, I think a modern poem. It's called I Never Knew. Take off the backpack. Lie down in long grass, pull up the blue sky blanket and rest. So many years of Dharma practice, straight spine diligence, straining toward enlightenment. Today, this hillside, just this. Lie down in long grass. Let the earth take you. Deer tracks and horse dung and the eye within the eye, revolving and luminous. I never knew this. Did no one tell me? I remember my Zen master in the interview room. Trust yourself, he said. Just be yourself. I think his meaning was this. Take off the backpack. Lie down in long grass. Let the sky take you. Rest. Breathe space into space into space. I never knew there was so much light. Lie down in long grass and let the earth take you. Lie down in long grass and let the earth take you. Deer tracks and horse dung and the eye within the eye revolving and luminous. I never knew this. Did no one tell me? I remember my Zen master in the interview room. Trust yourself, he said. Just be yourself. I think his meaning was this. Take off the backpack. Lie down in long grass. Let the sky take you. Rest. Breathe space into space into space. I never knew there was so much light. Where shall we take refuge? Everything keeps changing so stunningly fast. Moods, ideas, health. For 2,500 years now, 2,600 almost, human beings have been taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Taking refuge in the fact of being awake. Taking refuge in the way things actually are. And taking refuge in the community of practice and our forebears, the Sangha. And I like to remember the Sangha of all life. At this moment, there are hundreds of billions of us, probably billions of us here on the earth alone. Our home, our community, our family, really. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. in all of our diverse locations. Some close by, some far away. We sit down with an intention. What is your conscious intention? Why are you here this morning in this gathering? And what is it that we intend to do with this, quote, time? We are encouraged by the teachings of the Buddha to pay attention, to become curious. To do some concentration practice, perhaps to calm the mind. Maybe to land in the body and to take breathing as the object of mindfulness and concentration for a while. And it's pretty darn interesting that there's mind, there's awareness, and there's the object of mind, which would be breathing in and breathing out. We can notice the beginning of each breath, the coming to fullness, the decline. It's likely there will also be thoughts. Is your intention to get rid of the thoughts? Is there a kind of war that you wage to get rid of the thoughts and get calm? Or perhaps we could lie down in long grass and let the earth take us. We could rest here and become perhaps more curious than we've ever been in our life. What is going on? There is a body that is full of life. It is life itself. Notice that there's life in the feet and the legs. There's life in the thighs and in the pelvis. All the organs of the pelvis. The solar plexus, the abdomen. The fingers and hands. The forearms and the elbows and the upper arms. The shoulders and the sacrum and back. The abdomen and solar plexus and chest and neck. With bare attention, we experience life. It doesn't really have name. The mind can create a name for it, but it doesn't intrinsically have a name. And then there's lips and cheeks and nose and eyes and temples, forehead and scalp and ears. This cloud, this collection of sensations that we call the body, when experienced directly, is formless. It just is sensations in consciousness. And in this awareness, there's also the coming and going of the breath. Which, of course, is a set of concepts superimposed upon the direct experience, which is wordless, descriptionless. It's just sensations. Is the mind easily concentrated on breathing right now or abiding in the body? Or perhaps it has more dispersive energies. Maybe there's restlessness and agitation. Maybe there's desire, wanting things to be a certain way, wanting something different. Wanting. Maybe there's disliking, wanting not. Maybe there's sleepy dullness, or confusion and doubt. These various hindrances to awareness and presence also are part of the natural ecology of mind. Seeing them for what they are, which is phenomena that arise in consciousness. If the mind is quite dispersed, then we might strengthen concentration with the breath. Come home. Repeatedly, lovingly, gently, to this breath right now in the context of this body right now. Resting here in awareness, in curiosity. In wisdom as you observe how unstable it all is. How phenomena keep arising and disappearing. How is it that this knowing of breathing, knowing of thoughts, knowing of restlessness, knowing of wanting, how does it happen? We manifest and practice a kind of energy and persistence. We keep coming back to practice together, and we continue to sit here now and get lost in wandering minds, and then wake up and notice and stay present. Capture awareness of a few breaths, perhaps. You may well notice that the mind falls into trances, sometimes for long periods of time. There's thinking and feelings and planning and remembering and all kinds of things. And then quite spontaneously, there's knowing, there's mindfulness. Notice this winking into being of awareness. And we persist. Sometimes it's a challenge to stay seated. Other times it's a challenge to stay awake. And we have this container of the refuges and this profound longing to wake up, to really be alive. And so we continue noticing in-breathing and out-breathing. We continue noticing that the entire body is alive. Some of its sensations are unpleasant, some are pleasant, many are neutral. Remembering to be curious. What's happening here? How does it happen that the mind wanders off, falls into trance? Or maybe the mind becomes quite concentrated. It quite simply and easily stays with in-breathing and out-breathing, or perhaps with some discomfort somewhere in the body. Resting here in the present moment. As the body breathes, as thoughts come and go. Remember to lie back in long grass. Rest. Let the earth take you. And we are practicing bare attention. It's not thinking about the breath. It's not even having an image of the breath. It's the actual sensations in the body of life. And when thoughts occur, the content is irrelevant. It's the fact of thoughts, the phenomenon of thoughts, the phenomenon of liking and disliking, wanting. Spending this time in practice probably has quite an effect, physiologically, psychologically, emotionally, in spiritual insight. And so on the one hand, we practice for our own benefit. Simultaneously, we are part of the web of life, and we practice for the benefit of all beings. We are, in fact, all beings practicing. And so we might intentionally reflect for a moment. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. May our loved ones benefit from our practice. May our friends, relatives, colleagues benefit from our practice. May the people we encounter incidentally in our lives, at the bank or the drive-thru or the grocery store, may all these people benefit from the merits of our practice. May our pets and strangers of all kinds, strangers of all nationalities and racial divisions, racial types, may beings who are being born in this moment share in the merits of our practice. May those who are dying in these moments share in the merits of our practice. And so in this way we rest back into the arms of love. And we realize that we're part of an amazing, mysterious, constantly changing phenomenon called life. And please now notice it's possible to bring awareness into the contact with the chair. Into the life of the hands. Into the life of the lips and the cheeks and the eyes and the face. And notice the intention to allow the eyes to open. And then doing this with also perhaps the intention to notice another 10 times or 20 times today when you open your eyes. To notice the mystery of how color and form re-inhabits your consciousness. Seeing objects and seeing of the objects, knowing of the objects. Seeing. And then, if you'd like, we could reflect upon the humanity, the vulnerability, the mortality of everyone here. Everyone here who longs to feel safe and loved and loving and appreciated and not isolated. So it doesn't take a lot of thinking. It can just be a moment of gratitude, which I would word like this: thank you for coming on your Sunday morning to create this together. I have, I think, just 2 announcements. One is the ongoing request for generosity toward PIMC. You'll find a link in the chat, and generosity is such a wonderful, fun thing to practice, and it's this action of relinquishing and letting go. And so, simply, if this helps you, this broadcast helps you, then think about maybe becoming a monthly donor of PIMC to help this be available to everybody. I was talking with Gregory Malouf recently, and he was waxing poetic. I thought, where did this guy get all this stuff? He was waxing poetic about people who come to the center. Of course, we haven't been in it for a year, but we will be. But he said, people don't realize how rare this is, to have a place where we practice and to build community, and how precious it is. And that's true. So that's an invitation to participate in that generosity practice. And then the other, what was the other link? I put another link in. Oh, yeah. 2 weeks from now, I will be the MC, host / officiant at a weekend retreat / workshop that several other presenters at Brighton Bush are going to be participating in. Sarah Joy Marsh doing yoga, and yikes, I'm forgetting the names. 2 women working on personal empowerment and a variety of things. And it's a fundraiser to build cabins at Brighton Bush because they lost 42 of them in the big fires last year. And there's information for that. I put a link, I think, in the chat. And Joan is asking a question. I couldn't quite see it all. Is there a chance? Lifting the mic a little closer. Oh, you're not hearing me well. That's interesting. Is anybody else having difficulty with sound? No. It might be your volume at that end, Joan. Oh, Heather says it's comme ci, comme ça. All right. Well, see if you can turn it up. So that's all I have for announcements. I think, Jim, have I missed anything crucial? I can't see Jim.
I'm over here, and I don't think
Where's
there's
Jim?
anything.
Oh, are you
Do you
here,
have,
Kendall? Kendall will have her... Which is it? Hang on. Oh, here's Kendall. Could you speak to us, Kendall? Maybe not. I'll see what that was.
Candles was last Sunday.
Candle. Oh, right. First Sunday of the month. Sunday evening. Well, that's coming up. We are near the end of the month, aren't we? That's right. So go to the website to get information for that. Okay. She's here, but she can't connect. So, Jim.
Yeah, so there's a message about Gary's retreat on the 1st.
Oh, I see you. Now I can hear you.
Yeah.
Could you say something, Jim?
Retreat's on the 1st.
Why am I not getting any sound?
Why are we not getting any sound? I don't know.
Oh, I know. Well, let me see. I can do it secondhand.
Doug's class is starting on the Thursday.
Jim, are you there?
I'm here. You can't hear me.
I can hear you, Jim.
All right. Would you like to take over and do some movement?
Okay, let's do that. I'm confident that some people can hear me, and now I'll put a spotlight on my little window. Okay, so if you'd like to join me for some, oh, we don't need this, do we? My dance partner. That one. All right. So let's get in touch with we were lying down in the tall grass. Now we're standing in the tall grass. We're just resting. We can feel our connection with the earth by directing our attention to the soles of our feet. We can play with this connection by shifting. And as long as we shift in a relatively stable manner, the wisdom of the body says, this is fine. This is soothing. This is so much better than tuning into the media on our devices and getting stirred up with this chaos that's around us all across the planet. We have a little space here where we can just move a little bit and feel the life of the body flowing through one leg as it engages with the floor. And then that life of the body can be perceived, can be felt from the inside. It's like there's a seen from the inside out. I can see my outside form on the screen, but I turn my attention inside. And then when I get to one side, I turn and then see the change in the sensations. I get over to the other side and turn. That's a whole different game. I'm still changing the weight, but I add a little more. And as long as that's within a certain safe range, it brings comfort and ease. Now, if I step out a little bit and move too far forward, the wisdom of the body says, whoa, you got to stop. You got to readjust. My head is out in front of, lying down is out in front of my toe. What if I move my body with my chin level and my head above the tailbone and move forward? There's no alarm. The body knows this is a stable, comforting, soothing movement. I can step out to the other side, line up my chin, line up my shoulders, my crown of the head above the tailbone, and move forward. There's no alarm. The wisdom of the body is protecting. With just the right amount of energy, I can massage the bottoms of my feet, bringing attention inside, into the area we call the soles of the feet, but the feel of the inside of the foot changing gradually as we move back, changing gradually as we move forward. It's a massage action. Coming back to a different position with our feet parallel, we can sink into our knees and lift our arms and feel the massage in our shoulders, feel the massage in our wrists, feel the massage in our knee joints. The joints feel soothed and comforted by wise action, staying within the parameters of our experience of life in the knees, life in the shoulders, life in the wrists. The body knows when we're in the groove, in the flow. And it's so different from opening our devices to the chaos in the world. We've all been traumatized by the conditions of a pandemic for more than a year. So taking time to reach across and feel, as you reach across, feel how one leg feels from the inside, and raise that hand that's reached across and let the other hand follow. And we go into what we call cloud hands. There's a label for this gesture, but it's a massage in the spine, in the hips, in the knees, the shoulders, the wrists. Everything gets a chance to participate in this collaboration of ease and comfort and healing. We can feel the life unfolding in harmony. And that harmony is healing when we feel it from the inside out. It's in the shoulders, the hands, feet, the knees, the hips. Just doing a scan with affectionate attention. The breath comes easy, no particular pattern. We're just allowing the sensations to unfold within the parameters that we know are safe. We have confidence in the intelligence and wisdom of the body. When it stays within these patterns, healing automatically emerges, arises. And it feels like this, without words, just like this. Then we slow down and come back to the center, feeling gravity extending the tendons and the muscles from the shoulders down to the fingers. Get inside and feel the resting, feel the surrender to gravity. Feel the breath coming and going. Each breath a healing in its own right. Opening to the life of the atmosphere that covers the whole planet. Effortlessly, the body draws it in. The body knows when it's full and needs to release. And this rhythm is established. Life pouring in, life pouring out. Each part of the cycle a healing. And then moving from a quiet, restful standing in the long grass, we'll open the arms and lift them up and bring them down the center and sharpen the attention, sharpen the awareness, the clarity, the awareness. To listen to a Dharma talk, we need to have a little more engagement of the ears and the mental understanding. So we take in more oxygen, get it circulating through, opening our hearts and our minds to what's going to unfold next. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. I succeeded, I believe, to have the people on Facebook and YouTube see the movements and hear you speaking.
Very good. Very good.
Having a little weirdness with my sound at this end.
Magical electronics.
Yeah. Okay, I can't wear this and talk because it's a little delayed. Turn it down. Hello, dear friends. I'd like to give you a wholehearted and optimistic and exciting update on the building project. And instead, we're dealing with the Portland Building Code Department. And yet another round of things they want us to do has emerged. And so we're negotiating with them again on Thursday. But someday I'm going to be able to say construction is set to begin. And I hope that's very soon. The fantasy is to get back into the building in August. We'll see. I have a perhaps kind of wonky Dharma talk today, which will include the 5 hindrances and the 7 enlightenment factors, and the phenomenon of wisdom. And I hope I can pull it all together. It does make sense. Why are we practicing? Why are you practicing? We come to meditation, many of us, I was among the desperate. We come to meditation when we're very curious, or when life has fallen apart, or when we're grieving hugely and want to make sense of things. Many different reasons. And it grows from stress management to psychological well-being, and then to understanding something really important, something about life, or something about life and death, or something about purpose, or something about really feeling like we belong or at peace. And one of the things that really impressed me about the Theravadan Buddhist model was that it had this incredible toolkit, these descriptors of reality, of experience. And so I want to talk about objects and awareness. The objects are the things, the phenomena which can be observed, Like right now, if your eyes are open and your seeing is functional, there's a visual object, which could be the screen or my image on the screen or whatever's in front of you. So there's an object, there's light, there's intact brain, there's consciousness, and there's seeing. The same happens at all the sense doors. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and then at that most mysterious sense door, mind, that there are thoughts. And there can be thoughts of a visual thought, like remember your bedroom when you were a child, or remember the view from someplace that you really appreciated and enjoyed it. Seeing, inner seeing. The same is true with sounds, etc. So, there's objects and knowing of the objects, and they co-arise together. When we start to meditate, we're pretty usually pretty heavily influenced by ignorance, by delusion, and it's pretty hard even to find the breath. Right? You remember that probably, and we fall back into that sometimes too with fatigue and when we get overwhelmed. So one thing that happens when we start practicing is we start noticing that we get lost in the wandering mind. What was previously just normal, we were lost and didn't know it, and we were acting out of that lostness. We start noticing, at least waking up every now and then, it's like, whoa, wandering mind. And then commonly what we do is that then there's judging. Well, I should control my mind, and what's wrong with me? But over time, we come so we can accept the wandering mind as kind of a natural, normal phenomenon. And one of the ways we commonly train is we have a primary training object, for instance, mindfulness of in-breathing and out-breathing, and we make those sensations a homing beacon. And in so doing, we start developing some very different view. It's dramatically called opening the third eye, but functionally and equally remarkably, we start developing the capacity to observe what's happening internally. And this is a huge moment because when I can observe thoughts as they arise, when I can observe emotions as they arise as objects, when I can observe intentions to act when they arise as objects, I begin to have, there's the beginnings of choice, at least the experience of choice. I can choose which thoughts to pursue, which thoughts to relinquish, which impulses to act to follow, which impulses to act not to follow. So something is developing, and that's what I'm trying to talk about today, which is the capacity of witnessing or of observing, and that is trainable. I think that was the Buddha's huge discovery. And so trainable, how shall we, what shall we train? And this is where it might get a little wonky. I'm going to see. Let me see how I can do this. I wonder if I can get this onto YouTube. First, let me see if I can get it onto here. All right. That's not going to work. What order would I do this clicking in? If I did this. Okay. And then this. And then I did this. No, not that. This. Where is it? I did this. Good. And now, what if I came here and did this and this, and this. Well, I'm not sure if anybody out there is. David, will you check and see what's on Facebook?
I just did.
Anyway,
and
whatever the case, I'm here with you folks on Zoom primarily. Have you got, Jim, would you nod? Have you got the 5 hindrances and 7 enlightenment factors lists up? You can just nod. Yeah, okay. When we start practicing, at first, we can hardly see what's going on because there's such tumult. But then rather early, and when I teach retreats, it's actually the first morning or the second morning I always talk about the 5 hindrances. They're the 5 hindrances to insight. It's difficult to see what's really happening when we're lost in these. And they are the great energies of desire and aversion, restlessness and agitation, sloth and torpor, and doubt. And these are basic building blocks of the human experience. And they're not just concepts, they're actually, you can experience it when you fall into wanting something, particularly when it gets strong. We can really notice there's wanting, and the present moment isn't very inhabited or wanted. It's, I want to be there. I want this object, I want this phenomenon, whatever it is that the fantasy is about. I want it now. And there's not much tranquility and there's not much ease. It's wanting. And then there's hating or disliking, and there's the mind striking against whatever's arising. And traditionally, historically, before starting to wake up, we don't even know that's happening. We are just it. And then there's restlessness and agitation, a mind which jumps from one object to another quickly, and can become, and is worry, restless agitation, worry. And then there's sloth and torpor, sleepy dullness, falling asleep. Just can't pay attention. And then the clincher of them all is doubt. And in doubt, there is competing belief systems and uncertainty and not much motivation to persist in a way. I want to come back to the screen. What happens here? I still got that. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave that like it is, I guess. No, I'm going to pull that out. There we go. Back to me. So, please raise your hand physically if you're familiar with the 5 hindrances. You experience them with some frequency. Yes. Okay. This model, this Theravadan model, this teaching from the Buddha, suggests that there are other, hang on, how do I do this? There we go. There's another set of forces or capacities that are antidotes, in a way, to these 5 hindrances. And they are the 7 enlightenment factors. Some of them will be very familiar, even if you've never heard them before. The first one is mindfulness. Mindfulness lights up everything. It's that inexplicable, mysterious capacity we have of being aware. Like right now, you could become aware of sitting here. You could be aware of hearing. If you've heard this many times, you could be aware of boredom. If it's new and exciting, you could be aware of enthusiasm and excitement. If you've got some pain happening somewhere in your body, the mind could go to awareness of that pain. Same with pleasure. So, remarkably, not only can we restrain the five hindrances, we can culture and bring into being the seven enlightenment factors. This second one is really, I find, remarkable. I can't remember when I noticed that this was part of practice, but being curious. What is going on? What happens when I sit here? This afternoon, I think it looks as though my afternoon's going to be quite unstructured. And I'd like to just sit in the backyard and lie down in long grass in a way. And then just watch what's happening. Which of the five hindrances present themselves? Or which of these seven enlightenment factors become dominant? Curiosity. And then there's energy or persistence or kind of ongoing effort. And this is something we can cultivate. People often say when they set out into meditation training, well, 5 minutes is all I can do. But then sometimes that grows and it turns out to be, well, actually, I can sit for an hour pretty easily. Since I came back from retreat anyway, I can easily sit I'm going to make the effort to do that. And then during my hour, I'm going to make that, whatever that subtle effort is, to be mindful. Or perhaps I'm working with some concentration, intention, and I'm going to really come back to the breath with some diligence. The fourth factor arises spontaneously as some balance begins to come into these first three, and there's a kind of joy or delight or ease or, I guess that says it, which comes from within. It doesn't depend upon outward circumstances. And when we start experiencing that, when we figure out how to cultivate that, then the meditation becomes more and more attractive to us, because we are able to get that dopamine drip going from within. Others of the seven enlightenment factors, concentration, I'll just read them: concentration, tranquility, and equanimity. Concentration, the mind's ability to focus on one object and stay there. It doesn't need to take tight muscles. It's just the way the mind then just settles. Tranquility. What a relief to have a tranquil mind. Right? Think about looking over a lake on a very calm day, or could be anywhere, maybe in a meadow, and there's not much stimulation happening. It's tranquil. And then equanimity is a huge term. And it doesn't mean flat. It doesn't mean that nothing ruffles the being. What it means is that we are able to accept, quote, with equanimity, whatever's happening. And so as that develops, even circumstances where there's a fair amount of internal uproar, maybe there's grieving happening, then that grieving can be accepted. It's like, oh, this is the human condition. This is how life goes on. So I want to come back now. Mindfulness, curiosity, energy, joy, concentration, tranquility, equanimity. I believe these are worth knowing. I will, I think this may already be in my blog, but if it's not, I will post it there as soon as we hang up here today. Similarly, the five hindrances are worth knowing because, coming back to you, because we can, when it's difficult to find the breath, or when it's difficult to know what's happening, because there's some kind of uproar or something or another, it's really useful to be able to say, what's happening here? And then we actually cultivate wisdom about greed, hatred, restlessness, agitation, worry, sloth, and torpor, and doubt. And what do I mean by wisdom? We cultivate the deep intuitive understanding that these states are ready for it? Impermanent. They're all changing all the time. They are unsatisfactory. They're not satisfying. They are in flux. How could they be permanently satisfying? And then here's the real clincher. As we attend to them more and more fully and clearly, we discover they're not even personal. We discover that they arise on their own and they pass away on their own, and they are not me or mine. And the same is true for the enlightenment factors. They're all coming and going into being. And what's taught and what I experience and believe to be true is that with skillful effort, we actually create more moments of the 7 enlightenment factors, more moments of mindfulness, more moments of tranquility. And we cultivate them, and they then condition the next moment. And we wind up living more in that rather than in the uproar of the 5 hindrances. And they then lead, all of this leads in the direction of greater and greater compassion and wisdom. So I think that's what I wanted to say. I feel like there's something missing, but perhaps we can come to it in questions or sharing. And I think I need to wear these in order to hear you folks today. So, anyone, please, if you wish. It's kind of a farming metaphor. Let us do what we can to restrain the weeds of the 5 hindrances and plant and cultivate the crops of the 7 enlightenment factors.
Hello, Robert. It's Sherry.
Hello, Sherry.
I had to turn off my my video because I kept losing connection. But I just wanted to share something, a couple of things. One thing that happened to me many years ago when I started meditating with maybe 2 or 3 other people here on Quadra, I was inquiring and curious and wanting to learn. And one day in the garden, I just had something which I thought you were referring to. Was I had an insight of a web, of being on a web and everything being connected. And it was just something that popped into my mind. I don't know where it came from, but it was impressive to me at the time. And then during your talk today, during our meditation actually, my landline rang. And I haven't been answering it much lately because there's all sorts of people asking for money and robocalls and so forth. But I noticed my reaction when the phone rang. And of course, it was aversion. I wasn't happy that phone was interrupting my meditation. And then as each thought arose of who it might be, I had an immediate gut reaction. And I watched those through 2 or 3 possibilities. And it all happened in a fraction of a second. And my choice, that was to react or not to react, or just to accept what was happening. It was very interesting that how all those things just happened so quickly.
And how wonderful that they were observable.
Yes.
Rather than you. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Robert. I've been coming pretty much every day except Saturday. I even take you on my phone to my lab every 3 months when I go to get my blood done. Um, but I definitely am aware of the difference it's made in my life.
This is powerful medicine.
Yes.
Absolutely. It gets to be natural, but it's kind of an odd way to think of sense door experience, the 5 hindrances, and the 7 enlightenment factors as objects. But the more I practice, the more it's obvious. It's like, oh, there's that. And now it's gone. But there's that.
Hello, it's James.
Hello, James from Florida.
Hey.
Hi.
So when I think about the 5 hindrances, and I think about the 7 enlightenment factors, which are kind of new to me. I'm curious if I, like to utilize it like a tool versus just to observe and allow whatever process to take place. So I'm thinking, like, as I become aware of a hindrance, do I like acknowledge that I am experiencing that, and then choose an enlightenment factor to focus on, and just allow the hindrance to sort of move on its own, because I'm putting my attention on an enlightenment factor instead of putting my attention on the hindrance. I'm curious how the mechanics work, or if there even are mechanics in that.
I think you have your work cut out for you.
Thank you.
And all of the above are true. There's different strategies we can have. One thing is that, let's say one of the hindrances was in full bloom, and then mindfulness winks on. Notice what happens then. Does that stop the hindrance? Does that modify the hindrance? What does it do?
It gives me a choice. If I want to stay in it and express of it, or do I just let it be and don't allow my actions to follow it, so to speak.
So one of the directions we go in is to assume a position of choicelessness, and just notice what happens as the hindrance arises. Does it arise and then just disappear to be replaced by something else? Or does it arise and persist, and is there toiling in it? And this is all part of the development of wisdom, that we observe how it all operates. And another strategy is, and we're doing this all the time, which is cultivating mindfulness is a huge intervention in the system, because the five hindrances, as Ruth Denison put it, you can no longer get away with yourself, darling.
Right? Busted.
Right. So, we like our lusts and our aversions and our sleepy dullnesses, and we're kind of identified with them. But then once we start noticing them, we just can't go to sleep in the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And another example with sloth and torpor. Let's say you're having pretty intense sloth and torpor, and you're gone, and then there's coming to a consciousness. Mindfulness is there. Curiosity is there. And then gone. And so we watch the waxing and waning of the five hindrances and the enlightenment factors, how they spontaneously arise and replace each other. So it's all of the above. And only by personally exploring it do we really develop some deep understanding and wisdom about it.
Okay. Cool. Great.
It
Thank
is
you.
cool. I mean, life just got much more interesting. It's always getting more interesting.
Isn't it, though?
Mm-hmm. Even without TV. Shocking.
Right? I've just gone 6 weeks without movies or shows.
And that's an intentional experiment that you're doing?
It is. Wow. It's an experiment. I do experiments.
Yeah.
Most people don't recognize that. Thank you for noticing. Yes. An experiment.
It sounds like a brilliant experiment. What are you noticing? What's your discovering?
That other things come up, and I try to justify substitution. I'm not watching a movie or a show, and so I will play a video game. Right? Still distracting. Right? Still draws me away from what my intentions might be. I thought it would be very useful for me to write down my experiences before I get lost in movies and shows again. I kind of hope that maybe I won't. I was considering maybe 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off, just developing that so I can get some compare and contrast and see if maybe, I just thought maybe that's a next level step for me to try out.
Cool.
So that I don't get lost in, for years, which is possible.
So you have a very highly developed curiosity and a willingness to experiment. That's cool.
I do. Thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What a chemistry set. The human being, you have a science exploration set.
Yeah. Very much like that.
Yeah. Neat. There was a guy called Gautama that way back when that was kind of like that.
Did he write a book?
He became the Buddha.
Oh, Gautama.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love being new. Gautama.
That was his clan
go
name.
To me. That's like go to me, Gautama. Go to me. I will,
Nice use.
Gautama.
Mm-hmm.
Gautama. Buddha.
That's why, you've probably heard me say this many times, that I like to say that the Buddha was an ordinary human being. He was just like us. We're him. And every time we come to our meditation or try an experiment on whether to watch movies or not, we're doing the experiment that he carried out, which is what leads me to happiness? Where does freedom lie?
Yeah, talking about.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Oh, oh, there is a way. There is a way.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, James.
Hey, Robert.
Hello,
It's
Shannon.
Shannon. Hi. Um, I've been thinking a lot lately, and it just arose in meditation again about micro and macro, as far as like, the distractions, the hindrances. I was thinking, I've been meditating fairly regularly. I usually, you know, pull up some of the YouTubes that you do during the weekdays. Um, and so about probably 3, 4 times a week, I've been doing those. And then, trying to be more mindful during the day. So I have like periods of, these micro experiences of mindfulness and, intentionality, and then I find myself like today again in meditation, the macro, like I feel like I am able to meditate longer. It's affected my life in positive ways. But then the macro being like in the scheme of life, like finding that, you know, again, I had like bitterness and resentment come up about, for me, it's my upbringing and, the background that I have in from conservatism and evangelical beliefs and things growing up. And so just getting, kind of that frustration leads to bitterness and resentment. And again, having to deal with my family, extended family in some ways lately. And, just like I've making what I feel is progress, which I don't know, even know if that's a thing, but like progressing from, I guess not seeing all of humanity to seeing more of humanity, if that makes sense, like caring more, less about what matters to my survival as to humanity's survival. I guess just changing that viewpoint and observing more about how things work naturally, versus how people try to force things. Like all of these ideas, I guess, that I've come to feel more a part of the function of everything in my consciousness. But then, in myself, these things arise that it's like, I guess I was just observing. I guess I don't really have a question or anything, but yeah.
Let me see if this fits. I thought you were headed toward, or maybe that's not the way to say it. Do you get to see this in your practice? That when frustration, irritation, disliking, hatred, of the pain from your family of origin, when that arises, do you get to observe it as hindrance?
I have been starting to do that, yes.
Because, like, probably sometimes there's animosity toward those people and that belief system, and it's like there's anger toward it. And when that happens, yep, there's aversion, there's anger toward it. And you don't have to feed it or push it away. It's just what's there. And then that'll pass away, and then the next thing will come up. And so backing off to the level of observing liking and disliking can set us free from having to try to figure something out. And you're working your way out of a lot of complexity with those early fundamentalist things, and the unwinding of that takes a long time. I continue to unwind some of the early childhood stuff in myself, but it does become more and more workable. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, I'm tempted to say another thing too. I think it's really helpful to think about the people of our childhood in a different way, which is, there's a person on this earth who in this lifetime played the role of your mother. And she was, like all mothers, complicated and inadequate, and good enough in some ways. There was another person who in this lifetime played the role of your father, and he had all the same possibilities of being a great dad in some ways, and then maybe involved in some belief systems that turned out to not be helpful to you. And then there are siblings, and there's a huge relief that happens. Well, traditionally, when people go to the monastery, they get a new name. And it's not by accident. It's because one leaves behind, in a way, the family of origin. And while there's often a lot of work to do, a lot of grieving and, dealing with anger and frustration and confusion and sorting that out, which is the work of therapy and to some degree the work of meditation, that over time what happens is that we start discovering that we are alive now, and that is kind of like a dream. And it doesn't mean we deny that it existed or even exists, because you may have to still interact with those people. But it's quite different when it moves from, this is my mother, to this is the person who plays the role of my mother, and isn't she interesting? And we get so that we can love people more in their failings and whatever, because we no longer are seeing them through the same lens. They're people who played those roles for us in our life, and we could do the learning we could with them. That makes sense? I have found that really, I have so much compassion for my parents now. Of course, it is more than 20 years since they died. It does get easier after they've gone, I've discovered. But I really do. I'd love to be able to talk to my parents now from what I know now. I don't think it would be terribly different, actually, with where they were, but maybe it could have been quite different. I know I would have been quite different. Thank you.
Robert. It's Karen.
Hello, Karen.
Hi, Robert. I was wondering how to get rid of restlessness. I really specialize in that. I'm really good at it, and I'm like the most restless person I know. So do you have any tips on that?
I think loving it makes more sense than hating it and trying to get rid of it, Karen. Because it's true, you have a lot of restlessness. And in a certain way, and it can be really unpleasant, can't it? And sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it feels good, I'm sure. When you're dancing, it feels good. Are you still dancing? Or are you back dancing?
I'm in a troupe, and we practice on Zoom on Monday nights instead of in person, and we're hoping to get it back together this summer.
Oh, that's going to be nice. I know how much you love that.
Yeah, it does help. And so I still am dancing, but we're just doing individual choreography now instead of group.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I think very importantly would be to look at the aversion to the restlessness. It's as though there's something wrong with restlessness and you should get rid of it. And so therefore there's a war. And you just have a lot of energy. It's true. I don't think that's going to change. It hasn't changed in the 25 years I've known you. I mean, it hasn't gone away, has it?
No.
So learning how to be at peace with it would make really the most sense. And at peace with disliking it, because sometimes it's unpleasant and, yuck, I hate this. But that's okay.
All right. I will work on that. I mean, I do think it contributes to my creativity.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's a positive aspect of it. But the negative aspect is I have trouble sitting still for the 2 hours of our Sangha on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Get up and dance. Turn off your camera and dance for a little while, or not. Leave your camera on and we can all watch you dance. Really, I mean that. You don't have to sit still. You can wiggle around as much as you want, and just know that you're doing it.
Okay.
There's a kind of tyranny that we have that a really good meditator sits still for at least 4 or 5 hours. That's if you could do that. And Jack Kornfield told a story. He told it about some monk, but I bet it was him. This monk, young monk, Western monk, went to Ajahn Chah and said, "I just sat for 7 or 8 or 9 hours." And Ajahn Chah's reply, "Well, that's great, but so what? I've seen chickens sit for days." And it wasn't about how long can you sit. It's how wisely and how compassionately, how kindly can you sit. And if you need to get up and jump around for a while, then get up and jump around for a while mindfully. You've been around when I've done the Ruth Dennison, the shaking, shaky meditation. Just get up and do shaking. Go a little berserk for a bit, but mindfully. Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Robert.
Do you remember, Karen, what year it was when we went to Mexico?
I think that was 2000. It was 99 or 2000.
2000. So that's just 21 years ago. Wow.
Yes, but I've known you longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. That was a great trip. I'm sure everybody here we should all do that.
It would have been a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Whenever I think of it, I think of that night we went out dancing. The group went out dancing to that place with the Andean, the music from the Andes. That was cool.
Yeah. That was a wonderful memory.
Peruvian music. Yeah. So, anybody else got something to share, maybe about the 5 hindrances or the 7 enlightenment factors or the mystery of being alive? Oh, I should announce again, in case you missed it, my book, the book I wrote with Laura Musikanski, is out on Audible, so you can listen now. Well, it's noon. Thank you so much for coming this morning and making this possible. Very strengthening. So let us sing our way home. If you'd like to unmute, please do. The Buddhist Tabernacle Choir. Let us be beautifully harmonious. May all beings be happy.
Be happy.
May all beings be happy.
Be happy.
May all beings be happy.
Be happy.
Sadhu,
Sadhu,
sadhu, sadhu. Happy trails, dear friends. And I will go right now and put that drawing in my blog. If you wanted to get there, it's robertbeatty.com/blog. Or you can just go to the website and look for it there. Take care. Happy trails.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks for coming today.
Thanks, Robert and Jim.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Robert and
Have a
Jim
good
and
day.
Sangha.
Bye.
Thankful day.
Thanks, Jimbo.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear friends on Facebook and YouTube. I'm glad you were here. Hope it worked okay at that end. Bye-bye.